Hey everybody, welcome back. So in today's video, I wanted to tackle a topic that I personally find incredibly fascinating. And I've never seen any other person from the psychedelic space, whether it's a psychedelic therapist or an integration specialist or anybody like that, kind of take this approach and apply this information to psychedelics. So this is a new piece of content you're not likely to find anywhere else. And I hope you find it kind of stimulating, thought-provoking, possibly mildly enlightening for you in terms of helping you understand your own relationship to insights and information as they bubble up through you during a psychedelic experience. So this is a little bit of what I would consider more of an advanced topic or an intermediate topic than it is necessarily a beginner's topic, but I think even beginners will start to get a lot of value out of this and find it at least very, very interesting. So let's go ahead and unpack it here and open this conversation up and start to talk about it a bit. And really quick, just for anyone who may not know me and may be new to the channel, a warm hello to you, a quick welcome. Hi, my name is Dave, and this is Mind Keys, where we talk about such topics as psychedelics and personal development, personal healing, self-growth, spiritual awakening, these kinds of topics. So if that's your interest, you're certainly in the right place. I am a coach, I'm a hypnotherapist, an NLP practitioner, an integration specialist. I help people around their path with psychedelics for personal healing, self-healing, personal growth purposes. So if that's your interest, that kind of thing, welcome. Thank you for joining the conversation. Stoked to have you aboard. And with all that being said, introductions out of the way, let's go ahead and let's tackle it here. All right, so time's on me here. My camera is running out of battery fast, so I'm going to try to make this point a little more concisely and clearly than sometimes I do. So I have been thinking a lot about, there's a phenomenon with psychedelics I've been thinking a lot about, which I think is really fascinating. And I've kind of been exploring it in my own mind. And I kind of ran it through an old framework of something that I had learned through all my kind of exploration in seminars and personal development work and NLP and these kinds of things. And I think it's a really interesting intersection of these two experiences, or this model and the psychedelic experience, that I think you're going to get something out of here. So the phenomenon with psychedelics that I'm thinking about is this phenomenon of unpacking the unconscious mind, of unconscious information coming to the surface. So we often have this experience when we're on a psychedelic of kind of feeling like there is information that we're tapping into that we don't even know how we know it, but we kind of start to tap into it, and we access these streams of insight and wisdom and commentary and truth and new perspectives that perhaps we'd never considered before. So one way that I've always thought about this is that psychedelics, there's a lot of different ways we can think about the unconscious mind. So I just want to say that really quick. There are a lot of different frames. And if you watch my channel regularly, as a hypnotherapist, it's something I'm always kind of playing with and exploring with and learning how to communicate with in different ways. So I'll use a lot of different metaphors and kind of ways of describing the unconscious, and they're all pretty valid. But generally speaking, there is this experience that we have of feeling more access to the unconscious. So in other words, there's information inside of us that we normally don't access, that we all of a sudden find ourselves able to access from a psychedelic experience. A lot of times it kind of pops up out of the blue, and sometimes it's more like we're inquiring into something, and then there's a whole new kind of chunk of information or insight or perspective that we'd never considered before that just becomes available. So here's what I kind of want to offer you as a way of thinking about this phenomenon, because to me, this is part of the work with psychedelics, and part of what's so cool about psychedelics is that we can kind of take ourselves into the state of relaxing and opening up and allowing this kind of wisdom stream inside us to guide us and give us really good information and really good insights. So how does this work? What's going on here? Well, I've been thinking about this like this. In NLP and in personal development, if you've done any seminars, I know I saw this at Landmark at one point. They have what they consider to be these 4 quadrants, the Cartesian quadrants of knowledge, particularly self-knowledge. So there are 4 types of awareness or 4 types of knowledge in this model. And they go like this. We have what we know that we know, right? So this is the things we're consciously aware of that we know. I know that I know how to play guitar. I know that I know a little bit about making YouTube videos now. I know that I know how to drive a car, for example. This is all knowledge that I know that I have, right? This is what we know we know. Then there is what we know that we don't know. So this is conscious knowledge that's outside of our learning, right? So this would be, I know that I don't know anything about astrophysics, really. I know that I don't know anything about superconductors. I know that I don't know anything about deep ancient history, right? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's all kinds of information that we already know that we don't know. And then there are two other types. So we have the conscious that we know and that we don't know. Then we have the unconscious. So we have what we don't know we know. And then we have what we don't know that we don't know, right? And so what we don't know we know is information that we've taken in or that we know that we've forgotten that we know. And then there is the what would be considered like the fully unconscious, what we don't know, which are, you can think of as like a blind spot or something you had never occurred to you before, never ever considered before, just you didn't even know it was possible, right? That would be something you don't know. Now, when it comes to psychedelics, what I think happens a lot in terms of sourcing this kind of wisdom stream and this knowledge stream and this information stream is that we access that third quadrant of stuff that we don't know that we know. And this is really interesting to me, partially because that fourth quadrant of what we don't know that we don't know is usually what's talked about in personal development. So they talk a lot in personal development. If you go to like Landmark or Tony Robbins or an NLP seminar, they will teach you about what you don't know. And the point is that a lot of your breakthroughs, a lot of your self-liberation, a lot of your like really big changes in life, your capacity for new possibilities will exist in the area of what you don't know, including getting unstuck from your trips and your stories and your shit and your fucking chip on your shoulder about other people or about, this, that, or the other, right? What you don't know is very powerful, and it's spoken about a lot in personal development. But what they don't speak about a lot is what you don't know. And this domain of knowledge of what you don't know, I think is a huge part of what's happening when we're accessing this kind of wisdom stream or this kind of unconscious knowledge with psychedelics. What I think probably happens, so in NLP, the way they teach it to us is that there's kind of this difference between the conscious mind and the unconscious mind. The metaphor is like the tip of the iceberg, the rest of the iceberg, and the rest of the iceberg is fucking huge. So there's some old science. I'd like to kind of go back and validate this further and explore it regarding attention that says that consciously in our conscious mind, we can hold between 5 and up to 9 pieces of conscious information. That's why phone numbers are generally 7 digits long, because 7 falls right in between 5 and 9. So they say that consciously, at any point, you can hold 5 to 7 pieces of information in your mind, and that's it. That's the limitation of the conscious mind. By contrast, I've heard all kinds of different numbers here, but the minimum would be something like hundreds of thousands or even millions at a minimum to billions of pieces of information that we take in a second at the unconscious level. So in NLP, we believe that the unconscious mind is vastly more powerful in our experience, and this is the work that if you do hypnotherapy and you do NLP with people, you'll see this over and over and over, that people's unconscious minds are rich with information. And I think this is what happens when we take a psychedelic, that information becomes accessible and more lit up, more kind of, if it's always kind of deep in the dark of the unconscious, it's like all of a sudden there's like a neon light, and it's like Avatar at night in the forest, where all of a sudden everything's electric and you have access to exploring what's going on in the unconscious mind. That's a little bit of a metaphor. That's not a literal thing, but I hope you kind of get the metaphor there, that all of a sudden the unconscious is a little lit up with this substance, with the psychedelic, and there's all this information we've taken in that we don't realize we've taken in because it's in the unconscious. But all of a sudden, that aperture of accessibility kind of widens open, just like your pupils dilate. And the throughput of information, the bandwidth of information that's able to move through between the conscious and the unconscious gets wider, right? And as it gets wider like that, we start to be able to access information, some of which is going to be nonsense and gobbledygook and just weird and just strange bizarreness, which is fine and fun and normal, and quite frankly, just part of sometimes working with the irrational nature of the unconscious mind. It's not rational. It's symbolic. But also, we get information that is accurate or valid or valuable or useful that we didn't know that we know. And I think that this is really one of the great treasures of psychedelics, one of the great opportunities, one of the cool things we can do with psychedelics is take them and access our own wisdom of stuff we've already learned, that our nervous system has already taken in, but we just didn't know we know and didn't know how to access. So we open that throughput, and all of a sudden, we're able to tap into these wisdom streams and these ideas. Now, I want to kind of qualify this a little bit and say that I think this is probably also possible from certain meditation techniques. I know this is certainly possible from like binaural beats, which is why I make them and post them on the channel here, and other ways of shifting brainwave states into lower brainwave frequencies. So real quick, real fast brainwave primer for anyone who's totally new to it. Our normal waking consciousness is beta waves. And they exist in a certain kind of bandwidth that's kind of fast. Beta waves are responsible for logic and problem solving. They're also responsible for anxiety and stress. When you lower yourself out of beta waves into alpha waves, and then lower than that is theta waves, and even lower than that, the deep sleep, self-healing waves or delta waves, you have different experiences. So not only do you kind of feel different, like, an alpha wave would be like a calm meditative state where you're just really chill, like you're aware, but you're just really relaxed. Theta waves are more where you get into that loose, kind of drunk, dreamy, almost very creative, kind of fertile space, where kind of like that hypnagogic state in between, sleep and dreams. And then delta is like deep sleep or, deep dreaming. And then there's gamma, which is high consciousness above beta. And gamma is part of what happens when we take psychedelics, by the way. Side note. Anyways, as we access these different waves so you can listen to binaural beats and shift your brain waves down into alpha, down into theta, and even to delta. And if you can stay awake, which is hard to do, but if you can stay awake in these waves, you will notice your brain operating in a much more dreamlike state where you're able to access more of the unconscious mind. So part of what we're doing in hypnosis and hypnotherapy is communicating with the conscious mind and the unconscious mind to bring the brainwaves down into theta, alpha, theta, sometimes even delta, where we can help you start to reprogram things, because the brain will take in suggestions at that level that it won't when we're in beta. So there are other ways to get there. That's my point with that whole digression into brainwaves. My point is there are other ways to get there besides psychedelics, but I think this is part of what's so cool about psychedelics, and hopefully just a useful little tool, a little map, a little model for you to think about when you're thinking about this kind of ability of accessing your own internal wisdom. What it is you're doing is you're tapping into that deep, glacier, if you will, under the surface of information you've already taken in that you didn't realize you already know. And some of that's going to be really valuable, powerful, good, life-serving information for you. So anyways, I just want to put that out there. I think that's fascinating. I think it's, that's certainly one way of looking at it. And I think that that's a really useful map and model. Think about what are the things that you don't know, right? And think about when you learn stuff on psychedelics, does that seem to be what's going on? And obviously there's a little quality control issue there, because also what's coming up is things that are imagination or dream or symbolic communications from the unconscious mind that may not be rational, and they may kind of mix and muddle with the information that you're getting that you don't know. Sometimes we get information, where people think they're getting like a telepathic psychedelic download of some sort about another person or an experience that may be just pure projection. So that's also part of the puzzle. So part of the skill is learning how to sift through all these strains of information to find the truthfulness and the usefulness from what might be less useful. But I just want to kind of put that out there for you as one way of thinking about working with yourself on psychedelics. You're accessing what it is that you didn't know that you already know. So I hope that's useful. I hope that's interesting. Let me know what you think. Leave a comment down below. I want to make more content like this, but I want to know that it's really hitting, connecting, lighting up an epiphany for you, and really serving you. So let me know if this really hits home for you. And yeah, thanks for watching. All the best. I have more content for you guys really soon.